Well, good evening. How is everyone?
Good evening, good evening. Welcome to Pillow Talk. Tonight, blessings to you. Come on in. We are so excited to have you with us on tonight. Yes. We've had people talking about it, wondering what we are going to talk about tonight, and so we are here. Blessings to you guys. Please come on in. Let us know where you are coming in from so we can acknowledge you guys. Thank you so much for being a part of our lives and just of the things that God has placed on our heart. Just having a real heart for marriages, a love for marriages, wanting to help you fight for your marriage. So again, thank you guys for coming on. Yes, Ohio, from cold Ohio. I can't even imagine being that cold. But I think it was last year, earlier this year, we were in Ohio. And so
Ohio
it was
is too
7
cold
degrees.
for me. Ohio, Chicago, Philadelphia, New York, all those places, it's too cold for me, man.
Yes.
It's 88 degrees down here. We sweating already. So it is too cold. Listen, I was looking at this subject, and I thought about it. And it's not just marriages, but relationships in general. Tonight we're going to deal with some of the marriage stuff, but not necessarily just, of course, not just the marital side of things, but also relationships in general. And I kind of wanted to talk about some things. Did you find that article? We had an article that we were looking. Oh, you put the link in there. You didn't actually. Okay, so let's talk about a couple things. I want to talk about tonight some principles that I've been watching, and as I've been talking to people, we've been talking to people and teaching and looking at different situations. There's some stuff that I was. Alvin said Miami is beautiful. Hello from Detroit. Miami is beautiful. All right.
Hi, Faith.
Kimberly, Sherry, you guys are all on. So anyway, Thank you guys for sharing. Thank you for sharing. Okay, so we were just talking about how most people are actually headed to divorce court from the day that they get married, and I want to show you why. Because they have no premarital counseling, no pastoral or spiritual guidance, no desire to die to the flesh, no desire to kill selfish desire, and no vision for the future. So most of the time, you're already headed for a divorce court before you even get started. Right. So I began to look at some of this stuff. I looked at, then I was talking to somebody the other day, and we were just talking about how sometimes people, they court to get married, but after they get married, they just stop courting. They stop dating. They stop doing it. They get so busy with raising children. They get so busy with careers. They get busy with so many things, and you lose the intimacy and the relational pieces of what you're doing. And so I began to talk about how you want to never stop courting and wooing each other. Sometimes in the honeymoon phase, there's a phase they call the honeymoon phase. I didn't even do the research on how long the honeymoon phase lasts, but oftentimes, we will be in that honeymoon phase and we will stop courting each other because we just get, after the honeymoon phase, and it's like after that everything goes crazy because, it's after that phase that you start to realize stuff is not what I thought it was. Then you start to notice the stuff that was always there, but you just pretended to look over it because you didn't really, you were just so in love, And so I began to look at some of those things, and I'm looking at the notes as you guys are talking as well. So then I looked at how you never stop courting and wooing. And so very important because every woman needs what I call dap. Back in the day we would dap each other up. That lets you know how old I am. But I said that's to be desired, to be appreciated, to be protected, and to be provided for. So I'm going to get into a couple of things that I think are very, very interesting. And I'm going to get in trouble with some of the sisters for this and probably some of the brothers too. But I think it's some good stuff. One of the things that I was looking at is that after the honeymoon phase, people don't keep themselves up anymore. So one of the principles that I talked about today was don't look better for people outside of your home than you do for your spouse. Think about that now. You get home. Now this doesn't apply to anybody watching tonight, but you get home, you put your bonnet on, you wrap your hair, you get into bed, and you just let it go. Then when you get up in the morning and you prepare to go to work, you actually look better for the people at work than you do for the people at home. So now what happens is you wonder why people at work are more attracted to you and give you more compliments while you're at work or out in the marketplace than you get at home. But you didn't realize that when you were at home, you kind of look like you just got your bonnet on and your hair is wrapped because you're preparing for the next day. But you really did more to prepare to go out of your home than you did for the people at your home. And I think that's important.
That's deep.
I think that's really important. And I saw that, and I was looking at them like, man, how many people actually do that?
Right. And then sometimes you don't really think about it because your home is a place where you relax. Usually your home is a safe place, a place of peace. And so when you get home, for those at work, or sometimes you work inside of your home, sometimes you're a stay-at-home mom or whatever, however that works, like what your arrangement is. But many times a home is a place to relax. It is where, of course, you go to bed. It is where your night clothes on. You transition to that. You prepare for the next day. So many times I know, like with me, with myself, and even with people of my ethnic background, I would say, we sometimes have to protect our hair. We have to protect the different styles that, of course, we want to when we're out and about during the day. Then we want to be fresh, right?
Oh, this is good, y'all. It's going to be good tonight.
Yeah, we want to be fresh. We want to, look well. Because sometimes when we're going to bed, if we don't wrap our hair, if we don't put something on it like a silk cap or whatever, we wake up with a bed head. And so here we are, I got to spend 30, 45 minutes, trying to get it back together so that we can then go out. So we're trying to, lessen the process and make sure that we're presentable. But what you were saying is, and I think it's very important, because sometimes you don't think about it. I remember reading something.
Hey, let me say this. I want you to finish that. Somebody said that hairstyle costs us money, but I'm gonna show you in the end of this thing how not the hairstyle gonna cost you money, but how divorce could run you between $15,000 and $30,000 just the divorce process itself. Then the emotional bondage of the stuff you go through, the emotional things that it causes on your children, the financial issues that it causes. So you have to ask yourself, would I rather pay more to maintain this hair, or would I rather put...
Because it goes beyond the hair, of course. It goes beyond the hair. It goes beyond, for women, of course, men have their own set of issues as well. And I think what happens is we do become lax. Each spouse becomes lax with the other one. Lax not to say I don't care about you, but lax to say I'm at home. I don't feel like getting up. I don't feel like doing anything. I'm just going to lay in the bed today. I'm going to put on something very, very comfortable. It may be ugly, but it'll be comfortable. And so many times we don't necessarily realize what we have, what the other person sees. We see comfort. We see all of these different things. We see time management. We're looking at time management. We're wrapping our hair up. We're putting this ugly bonnet on. We're thinking time management, but the other person doesn't see that.
Oh, this is getting good. Somebody said, you want us to be cute all day? No. That's not what I'm saying. See, this is good. This is real good. My point is that, again, for some relationships, it's not an issue. But for some marriages, it is, because this one spouse or the other could feel as if though the spouse is being taken for granted. They could feel as if though the people outside of their home get to experience them in a way that they don't.
Right.
So you get up, you have your hair together, you put on perfume, you make sure your face is done, you put all that stuff on, the eyebrows, the eyelashes, all of that stuff, your eyebrows are done real nice, all of that stuff is done. But the question becomes, how much of that do you do for your spouse?
Right.
And so even with men, the brother lay around all day, you sit around, you in the same socks you had on yesterday, and so your feet smelling. It's been 3 days, and then I like that. Terrence, no bonnet ministry, right? And so here you are, your feet smelling. You done let yourself go. Your stomach is huge, and then you walk around in your wife beater, and she looks at you like, my God. And then she go to work or go to the office. Now that doesn't mean it's a license for you to be for you to be unfaithful. But my point is, we have to continue to do the stuff that we did did to get our spouse. Now, let me go here. We read an article, right? Some people, she says men are visual. So if you know men are visual and you smell good, then why would you leave your house and you go smell good for everybody else, go look good for everybody else?
Right.
You at home and you ashy. You go everywhere else, you got lotion on. And that's the stuff that we did, you see.
Right. Exactly.
And so then,
that's true.
Now we got them in our office talking to them about ashy feet that smell like corn chips and bonnets on, when you could have saved that money and not had to pay for counseling and divorce court.
Right, because what the thing that the spouse was attracted to.
Somebody said it depends, especially if his responsibility is buying water. God, somebody remember that from last week. That is funny.
Right, and so you made me stop it. Stop it, sir.
Hey, somebody said they on their third day wearing them same socks. Tara, stop it.
Okay.
Hey, looking like snow on your knees. See what I'm talking about?
Because what the spouse was once attracted to, they don't see anymore.
They don't see it anymore. Then you wonder why the spouse is wandering, because you stopped doing
or pay attention to you in a way that they once was, but they don't see what they once saw.
Right. Or
they don't have the same experience. And many times, as we said in the beginning, on the first day, marriage shouldn't just be about, I marry this person because they look good. Because, of course, you're attracted to someone because of how they look, their personality, things like that. And so you want to be able to, look at them and, whatever.
Yeah.
I mean, not to say they have to be beauty queens or beauty kings or anything like that, but they have to be appealing to you in some way. And so the thing that drew you all together, and of course it was the whole package. It was the totality of who they were. It brought you together, but for some reason they now don't see that.
Okay, let's go here. Here's a good one. You ready for this one? Mm-hmm. Here's a good one. For the man, the attraction of the physical appearance is just as important for the woman as the protection and provision.
Right.
Do you want him after the first 2 years to stop working and let you do the work?
Mm.
Do you want him after the first 2 years to just let you protect yourself?
Right, because usually, in many cases, the woman said, what attracted me to my spouse or to my husband was the fact that he was a great provider. It was the fact that he was a great communicator, or he was a great protector. I felt safe with him. Wherever we were, he always protected me. He was there. He always worked very hard. That was something he was very proud of, to be able to take care of his family. So then all of a sudden, not due to sickness or anything like that, he just stops working. And you're like, what happened? This is what attracted me to you. And so now I don't see that. I don't see that hardworking man. I don't see that man that protects me. Where did he go? I mean, you'll do it first. You'll protect somebody else, but you want to protect me.
That's not good.
Right. So that's not good for a spouse, of course, to do something on the outside more than they would do it inside their home. And so these are the type things that become not just a challenge, but a big issue, a really big issue, because what happens, it is usually not just the one thing, but it definitely is a catalyst.
Mm-hmm. I wrote something. Your job, coworkers, other people outside of your home get the best of you and the most attractive version of you, and your spouse gets either the leftover or the worst of you. And so this is what we get. Mm-hmm. We've had a long day. Even for the guy, you go to work, you had a long day, you just come home and get into bed.
Right.
And so you
or on the couch or whatever, your spouse is, just some of the things that you had planned to do or activities that you were used to doing somehow or another, because of life, because of whatever issue, then caused you not to do those things that really brought you together. Mm-hmm. And sustained your communication and your marriage.
So don't take your spouse for granted. Whatever you do, don't take your spouse for granted. Look at the things. We did this. There was an article. I'm gonna let you read it. Let me see this article. Here it is. Let me see if I can pull this article up real quick.
Right, and then too, as you. Sometimes you're together for an extended period of time. Sometimes, of course, looks are going to change. That's inevitable. you're going to change, and hopefully you can grow together, grow old together, all of those different things. You know, I have more gray hair than I did when, you know, we have a way of covering those things up. But, you know, there was a picture that I have in my office of us, and people was like, well, oh, wow, who was that? Is that you guys? And so we were like, yeah, that was us, you know, a few pounds lighter, and that was probably about 10 years ago or so. But, you know, we realized that we've changed. And a lot of times we look at each other and say we've changed. And one of the things that I realized, I'm talking about me. I'm not talking about my husband. I'm talking about me. It takes work to really be your best. Not just to say my looks or my hair. No, my physical health. It takes work, you know, to really maintain my physical health, what makes me healthy and what makes me feel good about myself. So, you know, I realized even with myself, you know, I'm like, Valora, you need to get this together. You know, you really need to get this together. I have access to a personal trainer. You know, I live in a community where they have a country club. I can go and work out. But it's my discipline or the lack thereof that I need to really buckle down and say, you know, not just say I need to get this together, but I need to get this together. Not just so I'm like, you know, maybe he wants me a certain size. No, I need to be at my optimal health and my optimal physical condition that I possibly can be, so that I can continue to do what God has assigned me to do. Of course, you know, ladies, men, we wear different hats. We have several hats. You know, myself as a husband, as a not as a husband, but as a wife, as a mother, as a biological mother, spiritual mother, as a pastor, as a prophet, all these things, as a businesswoman. So I'm wearing all of these hats, and I need to be at my optimal. And so looking at that, how do I begin to implement those type things so that I can be the best me I can be for whatever situation that I'm in?
Yeah, I think it's important. I really think it's important. And I think, you know, I'm challenged by this because, again, I talk to a lot of the churches filled. Can I say this? The churches are filled, number one, with a lot of unmarried women. The churches are filled with few men. So the men are outside the church. I asked the question last week, and I won't even go back. I won't even revisit that here. I'm gonna go back to this lesson. But I'm gonna, on my page, I'm on there's this article on the BBC Earth News reporting life on Earth, and they talk about the sin of attraction, how animals sniff the perfect mate. And it's a long article, so I'm not gonna read the entire article. But there were pieces of the article that I read, and I began to share, and I said, can we look at this whole thought process of what scent has to do in relationship? What even just the whole mating process, because there are animals that let out, emit a certain hormone, a certain pheromone, a certain process to let the other attracted animals know that they're attracted. And this article is even saying that the male can even smell when a female has been with other males or not, when they've actually been you know, intimate with other male animals. And so I began to look at that and think about that whole process, that smell is important. Even in the animal kingdom, smell is important. That look is important. You know, sometimes the male lion or the male tiger will do a certain thing to demonstrate that he has the ability to protect and provide for for his family. And so that's what would make him choose. Likewise, the female lets off a certain scent that lets him know that she's interested, and and then he can smell the perfect mate for him. And so I always say it's so important for you not to stop doing the things that it took. If being a protector and a provider was what was necessary, and again, sometimes things happen. Sometimes people go through cycles in life. You know, you have children, stuff like that. But just because you have children doesn't mean you can let yourself go. Go back and be healthy. You're not just being healthy for him. You got to be healthy for you.
Right.
You'll feel better when you're healthy. If we exercise at least once a day or once every other day, even your mindset, your mood,
right.
All those things. Depression can be destroyed just not just by just eating right, but also for exercising. So there are so many things. Your creativity will go to the next level.
Right.
There are so many things that happen that people who are healthy and exercise, they go to the next level. So I'm not just talking about your appearance. You'll feel better about yourself when you appear to look better. You'll emit a different smell, a different sound, a different tone. You'll even, there's a different process that your spouse even receives as you look better and look different even around them.
Right.
And you'll even notice then that they'll pay more attention. Not to say that we're authorizing you to pay attention to other people, but I'm saying if you're married and you just take your spouse for granted and you never do anything that your spouse wants to do, whether that's on the intimate side, whether that's on the communication side, if you want, or that's even on other things, education, financial, if you never listen to what your spouse has to say or listen to their needs, then what happens is you're opening a door, not just for the enemy, but that wasn't the enemy. The devil didn't do that. We did that.
Right.
So now when somebody opens the door for your spouse, well, it wasn't the devil that did it. No, it was the fact that you stopped doing the stuff that was necessary to maintain the excitement, the fun parts of the relationship. You're like, well, you got me. This is what we got, and this is just it, and it's just what it is. No, somewhere in there, you got to look at that and say, what do I need to do to keep this thing fresh and keep things going, and keep the joy and the excitement in what we're doing and who we are.
Yes, absolutely. I totally agree, because again, marriage is work. It is a beautiful thing. That is something that God created, but it is work. And so we have to continue to work on it. We have to continue to work on ourselves. Even when our marriage should be healthy, we ourselves have to continue to maintain a healthy lifestyle. A healthy lifestyle, whether it's physical health, whether it's emotional health, whether it's spiritual health, we have to continue to work on our lifestyle so that we are healthy. And so being healthy in those areas will produce healthy relationships. It will produce healthy relationships. So, there was many times when we work out together. We kind of encourage each other, push each other. We have a trainer, and so we'll, work together. Now, me, on the other hand, my husband, when we're out, he's going at it. I mean, he's working it out. Me, on the other hand, I'm just trying to, do as little as possible because, but when... So pray for me. I got to get myself together, guys. I keep saying that I've got to get myself together so I can get back in the gym. I can get back in, because I know that I would feel better. I would, of course, look better. Even just for myself. Even for myself. And, again, it takes a lot of work. It does. And I won't say necessarily a lot of work, but it takes a consciousness
and a
consistency of really just continuing to better yourself. And many times we'll just say, what? Reggie
said, Dad, don't smoke them. That's what you say when you're a drill instructor and you smoke the privates. Yeah. Yeah. Let me tell you, my heart, in the military, I was a master fitness trainer in the Army. I went to master fitness trainer twice. I was a drill instructor. Let me tell you something. The hardest recruit that you have is trying to train your spouse. So sometimes that's why you can't even listen. You have to get somebody else to train your spouse, because your spouse will try to get over on you. Don't want to work out. Oh, take it easy on me. Be nice. Go slow. And you be like, man, listen, I'm going as slow as I can go. If I go any slower.
No spouse would do that.
No spouse would do that?
No.
Oh God! All right, let me look at the next thing. Yeah, but I think it's important. I think it's important for us to stay. Now, let's say this: don't stop taking care of your spouse's needs. When you get married, the man takes care of.
That's amazing. Having 6 kids, I have to keep a schedule to make sure that I work out. So absolutely, you have to be conscious about it. You have to be intentional about it, because it's going to help you. It's going to help, as my husband was saying, it's going to help with clarity. It's going to help with energy. Many times we feel like we're too tired to work out. Now, that's been me. I've been like, oh, I'm just so tired. I can't work out. But actually working out does give you strength. It does give you more energy. And so it really helps in so many different areas.
You think you need energy to work out. But really, working out gives you energy.
Gives you energy.
It's just like people say in the church. Now, this is a sidebar. they say, in order to pay my tithe, I need more money, or give offering, I need more money. But really, giving money and giving tithes gets you more money.
Right.
Jesus. Okay.
Yes.
So, look, don't stop taking care of your spouse's needs. Men will start focusing on the job. Women will start focusing on the kids. And then you lose yourself in the husband or in their careers or their children. And the reality is that when you do this stuff, you stop focusing on each other's needs. Mm-hmm. You're like, they're secondary. You spend more time taking care of and nurturing the dog than you did your spouse. Mm-hmm. You know, you make sure your puppy get a bath and a haircut. And I'm not saying you need to do that for your spouse. That's what I'm saying. But I'm saying, do you continue to focus on each other's needs? Right. You know, are you doing that? Then another thing we said was, don't allow your marriage to get boring or routine. Now this is a big one, because for those of you that are married and you've been married a long period of time, what ends up happening is that it's gonna be deep. It's gonna be real deep. I'm finna hit some folks where it's gonna hurt, but it's necessary to be said. Your intimacy, your physical intimacy, ends up being the same way all the time. Mm-hmm. You go to bed, you get into bed, you have a duty to fulfill. So then you do what you do, being married, and everybody does their little duty, and now we're done. Mm-hmm. We just did what we needed to do. Mm-hmm. But it was just the same. You know exactly how it's going to be. You know what time it's going to be. You know what time to touch me. You know what time not to touch me. Leave me alone. Don't bother me. Mm-hmm. And then you wonder why there's no real intimacy, is because we ain't really having intimacy. Mm-hmm. We just having sex.
Right.
This is what it is.
Right.
And so you got to look at those things to make sure that you go back to having variety and building intimacy in the relationship. Mm-hmm. Don't get to a place where your marriage is boring and routine, where you can already know it's Thursday night, this is getting ready to happen. It's Friday night, we're going to have date night. Every night should be date night.
Right.
Every day should be date night.
Yes.
You should have some spontaneity.
Right.
Where's the spontaneity? Where's the difference? Yeah. You know, it's just like, it's Thursday night. You can set your clock. Be like, this is what's getting ready to happen. You can write it on a memo and put it on the thing, because this is how things going. And this is what people are saying. Their marriage got boring. I'm telling you what people are telling us that are in divorce processes. Their marriage got boring. Mm-hmm. They could already script out their week and how things were going to go. Mm-hmm. And so you started taking each other for granted. You got boring. It was monotonous. It was routine.
Right.
There we go.
Absolutely. It's a lot, and sometimes, you know, while you're in it or in the daily routine of everything, you're not able to always see where sometimes things have really gotten off course as to what you intended. Not that you intended for it to get off course. No, nobody intends for their marriage to get off course. Nobody intends when they get married to say, you know what, in 3.5 years we're going to get a divorce. Let's go ahead and plan for it now. Nobody does that. And so sometimes it's just the little things, because again, you know, wearing a bonnet is not going to just cause a divorce in your marriage. But what it does, it really begins to set a tone for other things. Mm-hmm. You know, it begins to set a tone. You know, over a period of time, things begin to set tones. They begin to set patterns, and then patterns become your lifestyle. And then, you know, as the lifestyle continues to grow awry, then other things begin to materialize. You know, devastation begins to take place. Then there's a lack of communication. You know, there's a lack of, you know, as we were saying, there's a lack of intimacy. So you're not even attracted to your spouse anymore. You don't talk to them. If you're not attracted to them, you don't do a whole lot of communicating with them. You don't do various activities together as you once did at one point in time. So how does that, being able to look at that and find out, okay, how is this working? Being able to go to your spouse and be honest with them and saying, you know, maybe I'm asking the question to you instead of just saying, well, what do you think about me? You know, or, you know, sometimes it's not always received when one spouse is telling the other spouse, oh, you need to do this, that, or the other without them asking, so to speak, you know? So I think it's important that as you observe your marriage, as you really take a hard look at your marriage and where you are, or even looking to get married, because it's not just about those that are married, but being able to apply these principles, being able to look at things, from a holistic point before you say I do, before you walk down the aisle, before you order the cake, all of those different things. These are some of the things that you really need to be aware of that perhaps you may not go over in marriage counseling.
Mm-hmm. And I think it's important because I don't remember ever anybody telling me anything about this kind of stuff in any kind of marriage counseling. You have to cover areas of issues of finances. You got to cover blended families. You got to cover communication. So you talk about those things, but most times they don't talk about how can you continue that process of really maintaining the spontaneity. How do you continue to maintain yourself? Nobody really talks about that, And so I think for me, it's very important is that we do that, because if we don't do that, we're going to find ourselves in a place of divorce court.
Right.
And you have so many people that are divorcing or that have been in the process of divorcing that nobody really, just what it is. Everybody's just, you end up in that situation not really knowing that you didn't have to be there. You could have invested in the relationship in a way that caused you to not be there, but because you decided that you didn't want to invest in it. And let me tell you something. You can preach, you can prophesy, you can cast out all the stuff, you can do spiritual warfare, you can do all of that and still have a terrible marriage. You can pray to you turn blue. But if you don't actually, let me tell you something. It's just like anything else. You can pray till you turn blue. You can go to church all day long. But if you don't go in the kitchen, turn on the iron, get an egg, crack it, and scramble it, put some cheese in it, put some salt and some pepper on there, you will not eat a scrambled egg. Come on.
Right.
And so just like you got to apply the work to eat the scrambled egg and to cook the scrambled egg, to go to the store to buy the eggs, the same thing applies in your relationship. You got to put the same effort into this stuff. Yes. You got to put the same effort into these processes, because things are a process. And sometimes we think things are just supposed to just flow. The reality is they don't always just flow, So then don't lose patience with your spouse. Mm-hmm. Sometimes we get to a place where we're more patient with everybody else around us than we are with our spouse. Mm-hmm. Somebody at your job gets on your nerves, or somebody else outside of your house says something, and you're really calm with them. And then when your spouse says something, you're ready to tear their head off. Wow. Mm-hmm. I mean, you're ready to beat them up and knock them out. And you're like, oh my God, I mean, for real? And your spouse is sitting there like, I just asked you, what did you want for dinner? Mm-hmm. And we're like, and you done went off and just blew a whole gasket. Mm-hmm. And they're like, man, what's going on with you? Because we lost patience with our spouse.
Right.
Yeah, we don't have no patience.
Right.
And we could be, I'm talking about, you be real, you're nicer to the dog than you are to each other. And so it shouldn't be like that. You right. shouldn't get to a place where you lose patience with your spouse either.
Right.
Yeah. Wow. Then let me give you this other one. And then another one is don't have more desire to spend time with other people than you do your spouse. But this goes back to, where is your real intimacy? Mm-hmm. Do you really spend time with each other, and are you still speaking each other's love language?
Right, because intimacy doesn't just start in the bedroom. Intimacy is throughout the day or throughout the week, and just being able to communicate with each other, being able to just be intimate through other means before the bedroom. So understanding the importance of intimacy and what that looks like for you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Another one we said was, again, don't stop speaking your spouse's love language. If they love touch, don't stop touching. If they love words of affirmation, keep encouraging. Because again, and it's not always another person that destroys the relationship. It's not always external factors. Most of our relationships have been destroyed from the inside out. Mm-hmm. It was already over before you got into whatever.
Right.
It was over way before you got to the divorce court. Mm-hmm. I learned that in even pastoring, that when people get ready to leave churches, they've left the church 6 months or 90 days to 6 months before they even actually exit the church. Mm-hmm. They've already divorced it. Right. That's why they moved from the front of the church, when they used to sit on the front all the time, on the front row, to the back row, and then they moved from the front row to the back row, and then they stopped coming at all. Mm-hmm. because the reality is they've already divorced it in their heart.
Right.
It's just a matter of the paperwork going through the process. And so what you got to figure out how to do is look at your relationship and see, what am I not doing now that I did a lot of in order to attract the mate? What scent did I let off for the mate in order for them to desire me that now I'm not letting off? Did you used to keep yourself together? Did you keep your nails together? If you're a female, did you keep your nails together? Did you keep your hair together? Did you do your makeup? What did you do the day you met your spouse? Was it the communication? Did you talk to each other? Were there long hours of talking and texting and having fun and building relationship? Was there spontaneity? Now, again, you've gotten to a place where you've lost spontaneity.
Right.
You stopped speaking their language. You've taken them for granted. You've not even cared whether or not they happy with the relationship or not. You just like, we together now. We've been together 20 years. I got on a flight one night, and when we got on this flight, this young lady was sitting over to the right side of us, and she was an older lady. And so I asked her, I said, well, would you like to sit next to your spouse? I said, I can move over one seat, because there was a seat between us, and I could have moved over so they could at least sat on the same row, one on the aisle seats. And she was like, no, we've been married 40 years, honey. I don't, he can sit wherever he wants to sit. And I kind of laughed. I'm like, man, that's tough, because in their situation, they weren't going anywhere. But these days, again, I think I'm going to do it one day. I'm going to just go down to the family court, and just sit and listen to some of the stories of why people want to be divorced, or what they're doing with the whole divorce process. Because as I said, when you look at that whole process, it can be. You need to plug that in. Okay. That whole process can be challenging as it pertains to. You can just use this one. Okay. Yep. So, and that whole process can be challenging as it pertains to having lost the fire, and lost the strength, and lost the excitement, and lost all of those things. To wanna, she says she wants her future husband to sit next to you, and so it's very important that you do that, because what happens is, if you don't, I love that. I love that. It's an inside job,
right?
And that's what happens. So you can't blame somebody else if something didn't go well, because if somebody's in the house and all the doors were locked, it's because somebody went to the door and opened the door, or somebody gave somebody a key. Right. Otherwise, they break in. But if they broke in, you would have heard something. So that's why the detective said it's an inside job. It wasn't that somebody went and
yes.
And
there was no forced entry.
There was no forced entry.
There were no no signs of any tampering or anything like that from the outside. But it was an inside job.
Yeah. And that's how most of our stuff is destroyed. Inside job.
Absolutely. And then there are times, there's always exceptions. Then there are times when the spouse can do everything right. I mean, you could be there, you can, whatever you need to do and be, and it comes a point that you seem as though no matter what you do, you can't satisfy that spouse, or you can't win that spouse over for whatever reason. Something has distracted them, something has got them off track, something has got them out of purpose. Even as this beautiful young lady was saying, please pray for my husband, because, I'm praying that he get back into the relationship that he needs to be with God. And they said, I'm asking God to change me. I'm asking God to work on me so that I can be who God has called me to be, the wife that he's called me to be, and so forth in that situation. And sometimes things happen that we can't explain. We can't explain sometimes in marriages, but when we can sometimes go back to a place and say, this is where it started.
Diana asks, how do you make sure you're not giving out the key or leaving the door or the window open? Jeez. You want to answer that? Oh, God. That's a good one. I can't answer that one. I think it's all the principles that we talked about. I think it's doing the stuff that you've always done, because if you don't do the stuff you've always done, then it's easy for it to appear as if though the key were there. Mm-hmm. And so again, if you just let it go, and again, this is the stuff we're seeing.
Right, and sometimes we know the spouse, we know the person that we married has not always been who you desired them to be.
Now, that's a problem though. Now let me say this: if the person that you married was not the person you desired them to be, were you really supposed to marry them?
Well, some people feel as though yes, that God said this is who I'm supposed to marry, and He's going to use me to change them. And so because they've married me or I've married them, then that's going to stop all the other stuff. But it never does.
No, because if you don't really, it's almost like when I was reading this article, and I'll post this article on there, but talking about the article, The Sin of Attraction in Animals, they can sniff the right partner. Mm-hmm. But if you marry the wrong person, or your motives were off when you married them, you will always find fault with the person you married. Mm-hmm. And you will always be looking outside the marriage to find fulfillment because this wasn't the person for you. Mm. And so I think that sometimes we start off on the wrong foot. Mm-hmm. And although we can do great things, even sometimes together in marriages, this is why you see marriages even with people in ministry. You see marriage with people in business. Mm-hmm. You see all these things. Somewhere along the line, they were doing well, but I think it goes back to the question. You can, just because I saw this one, I'm trying to get this analogy. I have a friend that I know, and they were married, and I'm trying to get this analogy because it could be good and it could be bad. But I'm going to tell it, and y'all will just have to get with me later. But this person married this person, and when they married this person, they end up one day going to work, and they met somebody else. And when they met this other person, they went to eat cheeseburgers with them. I'm going to get to the bottom of it in a minute. And they found they like eating cheeseburgers better with this new person than they did the person they were married to. The reality was they would never have supposed to have married the person that they were married to, because the person that they were now having fun with was potentially it's always easier. The green grass always seems greener on the outside. Mm-hmm. And so now they hanging out. This is a real story I'm talking about. I'm trying to be colorful with it because I don't want, but anyway, so they eat cheeseburgers with this person and hanging out and eating ice cream and going to buy each other tennis shoes, and when they got their income taxes and clothes and stuff. But you can do that stuff with anybody. Right. That little stuff doesn't make a marriage. It doesn't make a family. It doesn't make a person that's going to provide for you and protect you. Mm-hmm. That person left their spouse, married this other person, and that marriage only lasted about 2 years. Mm. And so since then, that person's probably been married to 2 or 3 people because they've been looking for somebody else to fulfill what they needed when they really weren't happy with themselves. Right. So you can't marry somebody that, you just can't marry somebody that you were never supposed to marry and think that it's going to work well.
Yeah, somebody was saying sometimes things get repetitive and predictable. Not good to be under the same roof and feel lonely. I believe it is very important to reinvent yourself, your relationship daily, keep it honest and fresh.
That's good. That's really good. I think that's really good because I've seen that too, where either or both of the spouses, members or the marital members feel like they're married but they're by themselves. Mm-hmm. So now you don't want to help with the kids. Now you don't want to help with the responsibilities. Now you don't want to keep yourself up. Now you just let yourself go. Mm-hmm. Now you just take me if you will, like me like I am, and if you don't like me, oh well. Mm-hmm. And that's tough. Because then, again, I'm not advocating that it's an exception or that it's acceptable to do anything, mm-hmm. but the Bible says that the devil walks around like a roaring lion seeking whom he may devour. Mm-hmm. And so he's literally walking to, matter of fact, when the same type of scenario when we find Job in the book of Job, and he said, where have you been? He says, from searching to and fro throughout the entire earth. Mm-hmm. So it's almost as if though the enemy is like a burglar, and he is looking for a car to break in. It was in the back of the church one day, and the police came up and kind of told me that there were a few car doors that were open at the church, behind the church. And so when I went back there, he said there was a guy somebody saw a guy kind of checking to see if car doors were open because he was looking for somebody to rob.
Right.
The same thing happened to me one morning. I got this knock on my door at 6:30, 7 o'clock in the morning. It's still dark. I go to the door and it says, it's the police. And so I'm like, oh God, everybody like, why the popo knocking on my door, And so I get to the door. The officer said, I said, well, how did you even know what door? At least that, some cars in the neighborhood were getting broken into, and your car door was open. I said, well, how did you know what door to knock on? He said, I looked inside your car, which was open, and your glove box was open, and I could see what apartment number, what condo you lived in. And so I'm like, man, whoever this person was violated everything in my thing. But if I kept the doors locked, they would have never been able to get in there.
I think another good thing too, and something that we've done ourselves, is being able to not just invest in yourself, but invest in your spouse. For those sometimes areas where the other spouse has fallen short or has not really come up to the place that they once were, or they've fallen off in some way, then how can you within yourself begin to invest in them, begin to, pour into them, begin to, in a sense, minister to them. I remember Miles Moore, I was listening to one of his broadcasts, and he was just talking about that, and how sometimes, the husband may not see what he desires to see in the wife, and begin to invest in her. And likewise, the wife may not see what you want to see in your husband. Begin to invest in him. Begin to, because usually it's really amazing with us. I enjoy buying things for my husband. I enjoy buying clothes for him. He enjoys buying clothes for me. He'll buy something for me before he buys something for himself. So what is he doing? He's investing in me. He doesn't just pick up, something just crazy. No, he really, is attentive to what he's purchasing, and in what's going on. So I really appreciate that. He's not like controlling and telling me, oh, you need to wear this, you need to wear that. No, he knows my taste. He knows the things that I like. I know the things that he likes. So what do? I begin to invest in him. He has a drawer full of crazy socks. And, I don't think men ever get enough pair of socks, just like women can never get too many pairs of shoes. So,
yes, y'all can, because listen.
No, we can't. No, we can't.
Women have like 500 pair of shoes.
No.
I'm like, geez.
But see, with women's shoes, okay, women, we got to stand up here. We got to come together. For women, though, there are so many different shoe types. They're the flats. They're the medium-sized heel. They're the high heels. They're the colors. So you got all of these different things. You got formal shoes. You got everyday shoes. So it's totally different. That doesn't even count. That doesn't even count. So, but I buy certain things for him because I know that he likes it. If I go to the store, if I'm just going to the store because I need something just for myself, I always bring him something back.
Diana, you about to get in trouble with me. We were all on the same page. I'm with her. I'm with Prophetess. Diana, I am not having this today. She got 7 pair of shoes on there. Terrence, I'm with you, man. But I think it's
yes,
real.
Diana.
I think because the other thing that happens is that sometimes you guys, as women, if a guy comes to a meeting, and sometimes we can do this, the man can get away with wearing the same thing more than a woman can. If a woman wear the same thing too much,
ooh, she got on that blouse again. Don't let it be cute. I'm like, ooh, she wearing that again.
Look, it's a mess. So, that whole thing can be, you're right. You're right, y'all. I'm gonna leave that one alone. Terrence, I'm going to leave it alone. I'm just going to back up from that one and just put my hands up and just give up.
That's right, Shanteria. Yes.
Marcus, I know Marcus Boston. He on here. He got my back. Who else? Who else got my back? James Stevenson, they got my back. I'm backing up with my hands.
Michelle J. Miller, don't start.
Hey, she the lawyer, too.
My sister
I'm backing up with my hands in the air.
Okay.
Good God.
My sister is on here.
I'm saying that to say I think, too, I think it's important. I think it's important to invest in each other.
Right.
But again, as I said, don't let this stuff be boring. Let me tell you something else I was studying. Right now, somebody just said my husband loves to see me dress up, even if it's in something I wore before. Mm-hmm. I think it's important. That's why I said what I said about making sure that you do it just as much for your spouse as you do for everybody else. Mm-hmm. And so, especially like if you're a stay-at-home mom, you still got to figure out ways to be able to make time for your spouse, or if you're a husband at work. So like you go to work, and by the time you get home, you're tired.
Right.
You're like,
and you know what?
I don't have no more energy. I just want to go to bed. Leave me alone, take a shower, and go to bed.
A group of ladies went out. A group of us went out on Friday night, Saturday night. We went out to the movies. It was probably about 15, 20 of us went out. And so my husband and I had gone out the night before. We try to do at least, sometimes 2 date nights during the week when we're not traveling and so busy. So Friday night was one of our date nights, and I sometimes wear different clothes for us than I do just different places, So, I say sometimes I have my girlfriend clothes on, and, I think it's something I like, something that he likes, and so I know what my husband likes, so I try to make sure that, I wear certain things that he likes. There's nothing raunchy or anything like that, because again, if you don't wear what he likes, somebody else is going to wear what he likes. And so I know my husband, I know his integrity, I know who he is, but I don't want to open a door, for the enemy that wasn't even necessary. You understand? I hope you're able to hear my heart on that. So I have some different sets of clothes in there. I had on a dress, right? It wasn't.
You got to make sure because you still the prop, so you got to make sure.
Right. Okay. It was tasteful. Okay. It wasn't dress. It wasn't tight. It was actually a loose fitting dress, but it was like a couple inches above my knee. Okay. That was a dress, and I had some cute little heels, and we just went out and had a really nice time.
Yeah, I'm cracking up.
So
and make sure you say that right, because you got to
I explained the dress, so it wasn't anything major, but at the same time, it was not a dress that I would wear to church. Mm-hmm. It wasn't a dress I would wear to church. But it wasn't anything, way off.
Yeah, it wasn't bad. No, it was good. It was good.
Because we were getting ready to go see Paul the Apostle, and he was like, "Oh Lord, I'm gonna take you to see Paul in that." But it was tasteful, but it was again something different. It was not the monotonous whatever, because sometimes we can get caught up in just jeans or what's comfortable for us. And I woke up and I'm like, you know what, I'm gonna be cute today. I'm just gonna be a little sassy today. And so that's what I gave you. I gave you sassy.
Gave me sassy.
Yes.
Let me give you this one. That wasn't nobody in the movie. I was laughing at that. Somebody said, how was the movie Paul the Apostle?
It was good.
Nobody was in the movie. Even though it was pretty good, nobody was in the movie.
It was a few
and
people.
It's amazing. It's like 5 people in a 300-seat theater or 200-seat theater. And I'm looking like, man, if there had been anything else, it'd have been packed. When we talking about something about Paul the Apostle, man, they would not go in to see that. And somebody said, how do you handle a jealous spouse? Well, I think it's a couple of different sides to that. One side of it can be, no, it wasn't even no church folks there. Maybe them other 5 people was church people. But one side of being is what a jealous spouse is, I guess, finding out why your spouse is jealous. Mm-hmm. What makes them jealous? What are they insecure about?
Right.
What is it that they're, what is it that makes them insecure with you about something? Is it something that's in their mind, or is it something that's realistic? Because if it's something that's realistic that you're really doing, then you got to check your actions to make sure that it's something that you're doing that's not something you're doing that's making them act like that. Mm-hmm. But likewise, on the other side, sometimes I've seen even situations where a spouse was jealous. There's nothing you could do.
Right.
You ain't do nothing. You ain't messing around. You ain't doing nothing else. They just jealous.
Could have been something that happened in previous times.
Previous relationship. Or sometimes it's because of something they're doing. You know, sometimes it's stuff you're doing. And I've seen stuff like that too, where, you know, 'cause I think there's a scripture that says to the pure, all things are pure. And then a wicked man flees when no man is pursuing him. I think that is, I'm paraphrasing it. So sometimes I've seen situations where people were jealous when they were doing something, and it was really them that was causing the problem. They just projecting their issues off onto you.
Right.
And so you got a couple of different scenarios, and I'm not saying that's the case in every scenario. Sometimes people have just been hurt so bad and been through some troubled relationships in the past, and so those are all of the different factors. Don't go away from here saying, you know, Apostle said it was because, you know, they was out doing something they had no business doing. So you doing something you got no business doing, that's why you're jealous. No, they could have been hurt before. They could have gone through some stuff. And maybe you're the person that's got to help them heal. Because sometimes, again, they've gone through something that really broke them or really made them, because jealousy is really a secondary emotion, probably stems from fear, stems from the fear of losing somebody, stems from the fear of inadequacy. You don't feel adequate about yourself, and as a result, you know, you then want to, you know, get with somebody else, you know. And so, wow. Hi, he said, how do you know? Now, I was just reading one of the comments that somebody was saying that I guess they had been previously married, and you know, one of the things I say is that you can't put people in a box and cookie cutter things either. As I said, just because somebody's jealous doesn't necessarily mean that they're doing something they hadn't business doing. And then on the other side, because again, they could have been hurt. Yeah. How many of you watching have been in a relationship that was a tough relationship, or you've been, it's just like if you've been, a woman has been abused in a relationship, well, if you've been abused in the relationship, is there a potential that you've been abused and then as a result you come into a new relationship, if he even flinches at you or even comes at you strong or his voice even raises, you start to think he's going to do the same thing that the other person did.
Right. And sometimes you'll even perpetuate that.
And create that environment.
Right.
Right, absolutely. Yeah. So those are things you got to look at too, that you don't perpetuate the environment or accuse one spouse of doing something that somebody else did. And then I've even learned that with, like, you know, guys don't do this as much, but girlfriends do this. Well, girl, I don't know, but this what I do if this was this. And I'm like, you gonna let them talk you? I seen this happen. Well, one sister of this young lady talked her sister out of a marriage that she was in, and she talked her out of it because she wasn't married, and because wasn't married, she didn't want the sister happy. So now she talked her out of it. A good friend did the same thing. Girl, this what happened with me in my situation. And so you listen to that, and then they get you out of the relationship, put salt in your game, get you out of the relationship that you really should have been in, and as a result, now here you are, relationshipless. Here you are by yourself, because misery loves company. Jeez. So again, I'm not, and then the worst thing to ever do is talk to somebody who's bitter about a relationship. It's kind of like what I've always said about, like, if somebody comes to my church and they're talking about the last pastor, I'm sure that eventually they're going to talk about me too. Because sooner or later, I'm going to do something wrong too. So I'm saying, you know, you just, there's some things you can't even let people in your relationship with. And you'll find, and then let me say this, if you keep repeating the same patterns, you got to check not the other people, but you got to check yourself. Right. I saw a situation where somebody was jealous and insecure, and as a result, this person married somebody else. They divorced the first person, and the person they divorced moved on, and now they're married to somebody else, and the new spouse is like, man, I can't even breathe. They won't even let me. I can't even talk to you. And so I'm like, my God, I mean, you can't even talk to your pastor. You can't even be on the phone with your pastor. You can't even have friends. If you 5 minutes late for getting home from the time that they thought you was getting home, it's a whole argument and a fight. No, you should let that person get healed and delivered before you marry them. Because if not, it's going to be a problem. Right. And so don't you man, please, you don't let people box you in to feeling like every time something is going on, it's because of the same thing that happened to them. That ain't always the case.
Right.
You know, and I said all these things that we've been saying tonight because one of the things I said that, you know, and then I was saying don't stop protecting and providing for your spouse on the man side of things. Mm-hmm. Don't stop doing that. Keep protecting them and providing for them. Don't get tired of providing for them. Don't then I seen situations where the husband now makes the wife take care of her own bills. I'm like, you know, you get to a place where you done just got so mad with the relationship. You're like, take care of your own self. Do your own stuff. I don't care what you do, you know. And so that's dangerous too, because again, you're headed for divorce.
Right.
Because here's what I'm finding. Not only is the average cost of divorce between $15,000 and $30,000. Now again, you might say, well, mine didn't cost that much. It was just $300. I paid the little $100 fee. You know, I filed indigency, and then I just went ahead and did my little paperwork at the court. Went on down to the court. What you're not factoring is the counseling that your kids are gonna have to go through in the days to come, because somewhere in there, your kids are, and people say what they want to, but your kids are going to have to go through some type of counseling, and then you don't know the emotional challenges that they're going to have residually in their marriages because of the fact that you guys didn't figure out how to work through it and build and do what you need to do. It's one thing if you were never supposed to be together, but now you got kids, they're involved. Their emotional health is challenged. Families involved. Child support that you're going to have to pay, attorney fees, the children's emotions, your emotions, effects of stress on the body. Because stress on the body, man, can cause problems. It can cause health problems. It can cause a lot of problems. So if you'd invested in your relationship, you wouldn't have to now invest in somebody else's pocket, in the lawyer's pocket. You wouldn't have to invest in all those things. Now you got health problems, you got high blood pressure, you got all this stuff. Your children are stressed, they're frustrated, they're having to raise themselves now because you got to work 2 jobs. Come on, you got to work 2 jobs. The man, you may move on and you may find another spouse, but you still have to go through the challenges of now raising blended families.
Right.
You still have to go through the processes of integrating into new relationships. You still have to go through the processes of trusting another person. You still have to go through the processes of trying to figure out how to go through the process of learning somebody new. And then I got a couple of people that I know that have been divorced several times and never able to find the person that's going to really satisfy them. Right. Well, the problem is not necessarily the spouse. The problem is sometimes you. So then I look at the stress on the body, cost of raising children alone and having several jobs, cost of trying to overcompensate for the missing parent. That's another thing. It gets expensive trying to overcompensate with your children because of the missing spouse. And so that's very, very important. So those are the things that we've been looking at, and this is why we say do the stuff that's necessary to keep your relationship together so that you don't get to that place. Somebody said, let's talk about why divorce in the first place. Well, the reality is that people get there because they don't do the other stuff. Some of you might have just come on. So you got to look back at the broadcast because we talked about all the things that you need to do in order to keep your relationship in the right place. Because the reality is that if you don't, you're setting yourself up to go to, divorce court.
Divorce is always costly. It will always cost you more because no one really can anticipate the emotional stress that you go through in a divorce. No one can anticipate the loss of so many things, of the relationship, the loss of finances that you have to contribute to go through this whole process. It takes a lot out of you, and no matter how challenging the marriage was, there is still nothing like divorce. And we tell people about that all the time because it's a death. It's like a death. It's the same emotion as a death, and because in essence a part of you has died. And you were one, and so divorce, it separates, and it's not a clean cut. It rips, it tears your heart, it tears your emotions, all of those different things that you have not, that you didn't imagine. everything that you didn't imagine about the divorce, you're going to experience it. Even if you wanted the divorce, even if you say, you know what, I wanted it. This is what I want. There's still emotional things attached to it that you did not anticipate.
Yeah. And the reason we're talking about the divorce process is because we're hoping that people will invest in their marriage, so they won't have to invest in the divorce attorney's pocket.
Yes.
So if you invest in your marriage on the front end and on the in between, you won't have to go there, because I'm telling you, you don't know, especially with those who have children, you don't know the real impact that it has.
Right, because it's almost like, say you're having an issue in your body and you go to the doctor and the doctor says, if you stop eating French fries, then the situation will get better. But if you continue to eat French fries, not only is it going to get worse, but you're going to have surgery. So it's better to just stop eating French fries, drink more water, so that you don't end up having surgery. It's going to cost you less. To look at the other alternative, it's going to cost you less, and it's going to save you a lot more time, energy, effort, and money. So, it is one way or another. You're going to have to invest in on the front end or on the back end. So we just have to determine which investment we're going to make.
Somebody said, how do you know that you recovered enough to remarry?
That's a good question.
That's a really good question. I think that when you are happy being by yourself is one major indicator. When you don't just have to be with somebody else in order to be happy, that's one indicator. When you're over the bitterness of your past spouse, and if your spouse was on the side of the road, you wouldn't run over them, your ex-spouse. Or if they were on the side of the road, you wouldn't pass by them and keep going. If you're over the bitterness of it, and you're over you have the ability to still be cordial with them and show them love, I think those are some of the good indicators that you could be in a good position to remarry. And then if you're in a place where you wouldn't hold your future spouse responsible for the mistakes of the person that you were married to before. So I think those are really good things. Yes. And again, sometimes you need to seek counseling. That's one of the things we don't do in the church, is we don't seek counseling. We don't go to a divorce. We don't go through divorce care. We don't go through counseling. We just kind of, get divorces and keep going and go to church, shout our way out of it, dance our way out of it, pray our way out of it. But there's some stuff, man, you need to get deliverance from. You need to go through a process of even getting, getting counseling for. Sitting down and talk to somebody, man, so that they can really help you understand even. And let me say another one that really becomes challenging is that sometimes it's not always everybody else. Because the reality is, can't nobody talk to you. You thought it was your spouse. When you sat down to talk to the counselor, you're gonna tell the counselor what to do. And so when you get to a place where you're so smart, you can't even, the counselor can't even give you instruction. Well, guess what? You probably you're not ready for marriage. That's something I've seen too. I've seen married couples get in counseling, and man, they fight in there. And so it'd be like, my God, well, we can't even go to counseling. So if you can't go to counseling, you in trouble. You really in trouble. Any other question? Any other thoughts?
Yeah, you said the fries are anointed. I know, right? I had some waffle fries tonight.
From McDonald's? Or from, you talking about, what are you talking about, the McDonald's fries?
No, when I was saying, about sometimes, you're going to have to deal with things on one end or the other. So you might as well, if you have an issue in your body, doctor told you to stop eating fries, drink more water, and then it would be alleviated instead of having to have surgery later on.
Right.
So, yeah. Fries are definitely anointed. And
y'all know Marcus proposed to Michelle, so they only talking about them French fries. Y'all stop all that flirting and stuff here. I'm gonna get y'all. But and then Shanteria talking about acrimony. And we talked about that last week, man. Let me tell you something.
No busting no windows.
And don't be ramming your Jeep into the brother's house either. Ooh. Turning his house over. See, that's the kind of stuff. I go back to that, man. Those are red flags. You know good and well that sister had problems. And then she should have knew he had problems. But again, really want to see people be successful, want to see people be happy, want to see people prosper. And so I think that's the real key to things is, seeing people prosper and seeing people be happy is the key. It really is. Yep, really a key. So let me cover these again for those who weren't here. Keep yourself up. Don't look better for people outside of your home than you do your spouse. Don't when you go out of your house, your hair, your nails, your face, your hygiene, put on your cologne, perfume, your teeth are brushed. Then at home, your feet stink. You pass gas, you belch. You don't take a shower until it's time to go. That's all the stuff that people talk about they deal with.
You're right.
So you can't do that. Somebody say, "Oh my God, he didn't just say what he said." No, I'm serious.
Can you repeat that? Because I think you went kind of fast.
Oh, okay. I'm gonna give you that one. I'm gonna answer that one too. I'm gonna answer that one. He said, "What are your views on a spouse working a third shift job? Would it be making it hard on the marriage to keep it going?" I wouldn't recommend. Now, like my wife was a nurse for a long time. I was ex-military, but I said I didn't want to do some of the military stuff that I did. I had to get out because I didn't want to be gone all the time. It's difficult if you don't want to work opposing shifts for very long. Mm-hmm. That's not good for a marriage. So you work the day shift, they work the night shift. You see each other 2 or 3 hours in the middle when you're both tired or both heading off to work. You pick up the kids, they drop the kids off. Yeah. Well, eventually that's going to deteriorate the marriage. Right. And you're spending more time with everybody else. Your job was never meant to be a hindrance to it's supposed to be a help to you and not a hindrance.
Right.
So that's like anything. You don't want to have stuff in place that's becoming more destructive for you than it is good. Mm-hmm. That's not going to be good. Mm-hmm. So I wouldn't say that I would want to have a job where you're working on a job all night long and then all night here you are on that ain't gonna work either. So because you need to spend time with each other, you need to be able to.
Yeah, very important to be able to really continue to build and develop that marriage, because many times we think that, again, going back, getting married is the person, most men say she'll never change. Most women say he will change. So you come in with this fallacy, with this infatuation of what marriage is going to be because of the television shows that we've watched, because of the books that we read, because of the articles that we saw in magazines. And so they're designed to cause you to buy something, to buy into what they're selling. But marriage is way more than what we've seen in the past. It's more than what we've seen on television. It's going to take work. It is an ongoing process. You don't get married and you just live life happily ever after. No, it is a process of continuously working on yourself and then working on your marriage together. So it takes a concerted effort. It takes 100% from everyone. It's not 50-50. Marriage is not 50-50. It is 110% from each person every single day. Marriage is a beautiful institution. It is God created marriage. It is a representative of Christ's relationship with the church. And so understanding, as we read and understand about even Christ himself, the things that he had to suffer, things he had to endure, things he had to forgive people for. So marriage is about forgiveness. Marriage is about sacrifice. Marriage is about giving yourself for someone else. So it is when we really look at that, when we really look at what marriage is, that you don't give up so easily on your marriage or on your spouse because they made a mistake or they didn't get it right, or whatever the situation is. And many times I think we categorize a person's shortcomings, and we say, well, I can tolerate this, but I can't tolerate that. And we understand, of course, never tolerate abuse, never tolerate just certain things like that. But we begin to categorize things that we'll tolerate, and then other things. And of course, we always want the spouse to be tolerant of us, but we don't want to be tolerant of them.
That's good. Let me give you these other ones. In that same thing about keeping yourself up, you wear the bonnet to bed or wrap your hair, then wonder why your husband is not stimulated. Because you care more about your hair and how people outside of your home perceive you than your spouse. Oh, we've been married for years now. Nope, can't do it. Don't take your spouse for granted. Don't stop taking care of your spouse's needs. Men start focusing on the job. Women start focusing on the kids. Before you know it, you've gone your separate ways. Don't allow your marriage to get boring or routine. Okay, same place, same time, same thing, same routine, no variation, always boring. It becomes a chore instead of something you desire to do.
Right.
And so don't lose patience with your spouse. Don't have more patience. Don't have more patience with other people than you do your spouse. Don't have a desire to spend time with other people more than you do your spouse. Don't stop speaking your spouse's love language. The touch, the words of affirmation, the service, the communication. Yep. And then never stop protecting and providing for your spouse. Because as we said, the average divorce costs $15,000 to $30,000. Child support, attorney fees, children's emotions, your emotions, effects of stress on the body, costs of raising children alone, working several jobs, costs of trying to overcompensate for the missing parent, and the residual effects of divorce on future relationships can become very pricey and costly.
So it is true. It's cheaper to keep her.
Yeah. Yep, it's cheaper. That's what they say. Yeah. Yep. So we're getting out of here tonight. I am. Yes. Any other questions?
Any other questions that you have?
Wow. Kimberly Cook May says she's been married for 27 years and wishes that in this information earlier. Cassandra Colvin, is this in a book? Not yet. I'm supposed to be writing 5 books, y'all. Please, y'all pray for me. My husband got to the point he couldn't sleep. Well, when he said he wanted to change, he was able to sleep some. Would you take that like the Lord was dealing with his heart? Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I think so.
Yeah. And I think once...
How do you, as the husband, really work this communication thing out? I'm a communicator. Mm-hmm. So for us, I'm a communicator. I don't have no problems communicating. Mm-hmm. I'm a communicator. That just...
So even with myself, I've always been a great listener. I can listen well. I'm very attentive in listening. And then because I process things inside, I'm not as conversational as my husband is. So what I've had to learn to do is to be more communicative, meaning be more engaging in my communication towards him, and not just listen and not just like, oh, okay, and then begin to emulate and begin to. So I had to develop and continuing to develop my communication skills because it's helped me in other areas. Not just in my marriage, but it's helped me in other areas. And so, again, he's more outgoing. He's more communicative. I'm more of an introvert. But I realize I can't have a successful marriage just based upon my personality, because my personality sometimes is, I don't want to talk. I don't want to be bothered. I don't want to, you know what I mean? So I've had to learn how to be the wife that God called me to be.
Somebody made a statement. They said that their wife is not very good at that either, and it's killing them.
Wow.
And I think that it does. I think that what happens is that goes back to being selfish. Mm-hmm. Somebody said, I would have been married for 35 years on Sunday, been divorced for 16 years. And so I think that sometimes we don't look at that. We just look at how things affect us. But we don't look at how our silence is. So I'm not good at it, but okay. So I guess that person was saying that their spouse was not good at it. Well, they're not good at it, but their spouse is. So it's the other way around. Mm-hmm. But I think that sometimes we don't look at the effects of us not giving the love language that our spouse needs to them.
There was something, it was a situation, and we know of a couple, they live in another state, but the wife was going through a health challenge. And so her love language, of course, is touch, but she was sharing that she really needed her husband to be more in tune with her love language. And he didn't understand that it would even help her to heal. Help her to heal, in that, because of the touch, because of, certain things. And so it was hard for him to kind of get it, but he did get it. He did begin to come around. And when I tell you, things were so, so amazing in their marriage, because they were able to really talk to each other, really communicate well with each other based on the other's, person's love language. And, it just takes work. It really does. It takes work. I'm still learning. I'm still growing, and being the wife that he needs. He needs to be in order for him to do what he's been called to do. There is a certain responsibility as a helpmeet, and we'll maybe we'll talk about that in a session. What that really looks like and what that entails.
Wow. See, I hate to hear stuff like that. Like this person says, my husband moved in with his mom after 15 years of marriage. And so you have all those in-law issues, and there's so many different factors that can apply. I was wondering if the mother-in-law had been talked to, did she talk to them at all, or? Oh, I'd have to probably inbox us and ask us, give us some more clarity. Mm-hmm. But that's some of that stuff, it's challenging, because again, nobody ever gets married with the desire to get divorced. But I think if we don't work on it, which is the principle we've been talking about tonight, somebody asked about that would be awesome. What it entails to be a helpmeet. She won't talk to me, the wife. Wow. So she's saying her husband's mother won't talk to her. And see, that stuff too. You have to keep people out your business, but you also, on your behalf, you can't make him not tell his mom stuff. So wow, pray for restoration on yourself and read the Love Dare journal. That's good. Yeah, that's a good movie. That movie, was it called The Love Dare? Mm-hmm. Or the Love Dare journal. It was from, what movie was that? Fireproof. Fireproof. Yep. Mm-hmm. Yep. Wow. She said she wants her son with her. That's tough. That's super tough. Yep. Mm-hmm. That is tough. So we'll definitely be praying. Yeah. Yep. Rochelle Batiste, she asked, well, how do you meet the right spouse, right mate for you? I think from the female perspective, I really believe that you just have to continue to seek God, be in the right place with God, be healthy, be whole, and at the right time, God is going to send that person who's going to be looking for the scent that you're going to emit. Yeah. It was amazing because I was divorced. I was married previously. And God had me in a place 7 years. I was married for 7 years. During that time, I just began I had to allow God to heal me, through the things that I had gone through. I had to walk through that process. I've always kind of been okay with being by myself. That wasn't an issue with me, or feeling I had to have someone. But God began to really redefine me. Because sometimes in life and even in a marriage, you'll kind of lose yourself. You'll sometimes conform to just a lifestyle. You'll conform to different things, and you realize that you don't even know what you like anymore. You don't even realize that you wake up one day and you're like, I don't even like this. I don't even like, certain thing, or drink a certain thing. You're like, I don't even like that. So I had to allow God to work through those things in my life, sometimes that we ourselves are not even aware of. We don't even realize that, we've become something that we really aren't, because we've conformed to everybody else around us. So in that, and I'm getting to when God told me that I was going to get married, I was like, oh no, I'm good. I'm not looking for a husband. I don't want a husband. I'm good. That's when I knew I was ready. Not to say I wouldn't be a good wife, but that wasn't my priority. It wasn't like I was asking God every 5 minutes, God, where's my husband? Where's my husband? You know what I mean? And I think that's when you know you're not ready. Yeah.
Absolutely. When you're just like, God, when is he going to come? Is he going to call me? Is this one it? Because then what happens when you're in a place of desperation for whatever reason, desperation because you don't want to be lonely, desperation because of intimacy, desperation because of whatever it is, then you'll begin to make choices, and a desperate person will many times make the wrong choice.
In relationships,
yes.
95% of you make 99% you make the wrong choice.
Because you'll grab hold of anyone, and see what happens is sometimes men can smell desperation.
Oh yeah.
And they will take advantage of it. Just like with the woman, you know, they smell desperation on the man because he's like, I gotta find my wife, I gotta find my wife, and so it's like, okay, I got you.
Yeah, I got a family member. I won't say which one, but he was always say, he said I can tell when they're desperate. I can tell when they have low self-esteem. Yeah, and so he's constantly said that. He said, I can tell when they're desperate. I can tell when they got low self-esteem. I can tell. And he would tell me, he said, them the ones I go after.
Let me tell you something. Men know. They can tell when a woman wants them, when the woman is like desperate for them, when a woman is like, and so they may not say anything, but they can tell. They can tell.
Oh yeah, they see it. They see it all over you. Yeah. Well, I'm getting out of here. I had a professor in my undergrad. He would get to the end of class. He would say, "Now you know everything I know. See you next week." So listen. I don't know how much longer we're going to do these pillow talks. I really enjoy them on Tuesday nights. But, really felt like God was telling us to do them when we started them. And really feel like people, feel like it's been a blessing. And so we pray, please share. Yep, the body language. And you talk long enough, you can be located. Yep, absolutely. Let me tell you something. When I tell you, people can tell. Yes. People can tell. And then other people can tell. Because people can see how you react around people.
Yes.
Even, especially like being a pastor, I can tell. Sometimes we get new brothers in the church, and so I just sit there and I look, and the sisters be like, "You get some extra long eyelashes. Y'all can't see my eyes, but they get the extra long eyelashes so they can get in his face and bat their eyes, and so their eyes look like two legs doing flutter kicks. The eyes just fluttering." And so you looking at him, you like, oh my God, like that. You think that brother can't see you batting your eyes and trying to, every time you turn, you leave service or the message is over or before you get there, you run. I'm talking about you don't go say hello to nobody else. You run straight to them. I'd be like, okay. Yep, that's it.
Somebody say, don't stop the pillow talks. Their daughter, she's 10 and she's enjoying it too.
Oh wow, that's funny. Don't let your eyelashes be doing flutter kicks.
They say they can see your eyelashes, your eyes kicking.
Yep, that is. They like he don't see you.
Hey you.
And like you don't see he see you. And then he's standing in line, like three of them in line.
Not only does he see you, but he smell you.
Let me tell you. Oh God, I was going to say something else before I get off and I'm gonna be in trouble.
That
right
was before him.
I was looking at this thing. Now I'm gonna say this. And I'm gonna run. The other thing is, I don't think it's appropriate for women to tell men that God said that you're supposed to be my husband. I think it was supposed to be the man who says, God says you're my wife, and then he confirms it with you, or you feel it. You feel like God said it. You hear it from God, and God says it. So some of the stuff that we see in the church these days, man, it's a mess.
Because absolutely, one of the things that we teach in our schools is that, especially when it deals with the prophetic, everything that you say God says is not to be spoken. It is everything is not to be spoken. Because
the woman said, my husband said 3 different women did that to him, and he's supposed to talk about this God.
Yeah, her husband. So this
I seen it happen.
It's crazy. And then sometimes people feel like God is schizophrenic or he's crazy, and you're like, well, God, why would you tell her and not tell me? And I'm the man.
I heard one brother say, God didn't tell me that. He might have told you that, but I'm gonna wait on him to tell me. And when he tell me, I'll come back and let you know.
Oh yeah, so it gets crazy.
Well, somebody said just about once a year, somebody or twice, somebody tries that line on me. Father, let us pray. I'm getting out of here. I'm done. God, I'm done. I can't take it no more, man.
Love you guys.
I can't take it no more.
Let's pray over marriages. Pray over
Come on, pray, baby.
Well, Father, in the name of Jesus, we just thank you for these, your sons and your daughters, God. We lift up marriages tonight. We declare healing, God. We declare renewed strength, renewed peace, renewed love in the name of Jesus. Open their eyes, God, that they will be able to see each other. They will be able to see how to better their marriage, how to walk in wholeness, how to walk in forgiveness, how to come together, Father God, and make something beautiful in the name of Jesus, God. Allow their marriage to emulate your Christ relationship with the church. That, Father, they will be able to be willing to give themselves for each other. They will be able to love one another. That goes beyond what they've seen in the past. In the name of Jesus, God, we just cover marriages. We plead the blood of Jesus over any outside force. In the name of Jesus, we thank you for creativity in marriages. We thank you for spontaneity in marriages, God. We thank you that marriages are flourishing. We thank you, Father, that marriages are getting stronger and stronger each and every day. And so, God, for those that are unmarried, those that desire to be married, Father God, that they would truly wait upon you. They would trust in you with all of their heart and lean not to their own understanding, but in all of their ways acknowledge you, and you will direct their path. We call forth men of valor, men of strength, men of courage, men of bravery in the name of Jesus, God, that they will seek after you and seek your will for their life and seek the spouse that you have called them to be with in the name of Jesus, that they would find their spouse, and God, that the impending wife, Father God, will be submitted to what you have called her to do, that she will be the helpmeet that you have assigned for her to be. And it's in Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen. All right. Me and Agape getting out of here.
Love you guys. Thank you so much. We'll see you soon. God bless.